fingers between my lips and whistled up a cab. I took that cab to the hospital in Bethesda, Maryland, where in the 1950s President Eisenhower's doctors hid his heart trouble, and in the 1980s President Reagan's doctors hid the fact that our old gentleman leader had gone funny. It was a safe place to keep family troubles close to the soul and away from the rest of the country. I slipped in past a crowd of reporters with the help of the Secret Service, who hadn't yet heard I'd splattered you-know-who with an apple. I went to the private room where Nick Jakobic lay recuperating somewhere below the shore of normal sleep, his stomach and chest bound with bandages that hid long rows of stitches, his arm fitted with a slow drip of soothing narcotics, which he would sure as hell jerk from his vein when he woke up. I sat down beside Jakobic's bed and cupped one of his big hands in mine. People had sworn he was the kind of man who could do me no good outside of bed. A suspect stranger, not a good old boy or a swank southern businessman, not one of us. A man who had never tilled the soil for a living or sold a bushel of newly picked apples to an apple-hungry world, or sat around a campfire drinking bourbon under a hunter's moon. A man who knew more about ways to die than ways to live. A man so cloaked in rumors and mysteries that even the president couldn't protect his reputation. Without a doubt, people said, Hush McGill Thackeray would never stoop to love that kind of man after loving such a fine man as her husband. I'm here to tell you I did. He wasn't. I wasn't supposed to. But I do. This was never about you and me, I whispered to Jakobic. People just have to grow where they're planted. That's the last apple analogy I'll offer you until you decide to ask for more. If and when. Just remember, just believe me. You have earned your blessings. I kissed him and cried a little. His mouth eased, but he couldn't wake up.
I hear that you and my wife had an unhappy meeting,
someone said. I turned and found the president gazing at me from the doorway. I hit her with a rotten apple. Not something you really like to tell a man who has his own army. But the president only nodded.
She probably deserved it.
I tucked a small crucifix of apple wood inside Jakobic's unfurled hand, bent my forehead to his for a long, hard moment, then left the room. It was time to go home to the fertile, wild mountains of Georgia, where I and everyone I loved, except Nick Jakobic and his presidential relatives, belonged. We all make ourselves up as we go along, until the tall tales of our lives grow around our weaknesses and humiliations like the tough bark of an apple tree. Call it public relations for the country's good, or call it making the best of a bad situation in a family or a marriage or a love affair, but either way, we root our lives in other people's ideas of who we are, both public and private, both great and small. But an apple, of course, never really falls far from its tree.
Part 1. Chapter 1.
Earn the blessings. We McGillans had always had to earn our blessings on the cruel grace of the seasons and the hard, red hope of ripe apples. Our legacy started in 1865 with Hush Campbell McGillan, a young Scottish woman whose husband, Thomas, died in pieces at the Battle of Bull Run. We suspect Thomas McGillan was a Pennsylvania Scotsman in the service of the Union Army, but great-great-great-grandmother Hush never admitted such a notorious thing after she came to enemy territory in the Appalachian South. She brought with her 4 half-grown sons and daughters, a mule, a wagon, $50, and a bag of apple seeds, gathered from every orchard she'd passed between Pennsylvania and Georgia. Hush the First had grown up growing apples in the old country, where her daddy managed an Englishman's fruit trees. Hush knew how to site an orchard, how to make a graft take life on the rootstock, how to draw bees covered in pollen every spring.